The only good thing about this episode of Tales of Zestiria the X Season 2 was Alicia's transformation, and also the art and animation, which is a given because Studio Photable. Besides that, the rest of this episode was just absolutely atrocious because there's so many things that weren't explained. There were scenes where I was like, should I care? Other things I'm just scratching my head like, okay. And others I'm like, why should I care about this scene? So, let me explain. Besides the Alicia stuff, which I really enjoy, I like seeing her gaining strength, being in the spotlight. The episode, holy shit, it was really bad because of the pacing, but also the lack of explanations on so many things. Now, FYI, anime only, haven't played the game, so as I've said already, once I finish the anime, I'll dive into Tales of Zestiria. I'll play the game. But for now, though, anime only. I am very aware that these final episodes are anime original. I've been told already, so don't worry about that. However, this episode, so many things were just thrown out the window or thrown on screen. I was just questioning, why should I legit care? Let's talk about one scene, and that would be the Hellion, which has been following Alicia around since, like, Season 1. And in all honesty, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. I don't really care about that character. I mean, he's funny with some of the interactions he's had with Alicia, but overall, I don't really have any emotional attachment to the character. I don't feel sorry for the character. I don't care if he's not on screen for an episode. Honestly, I don't care about the character. And I haven't been given a reason to really care about the character because there hasn't been a lot of development or characterization for him. We only know that he was trying to kill Alicia earlier on in Season 1, eventually started following her around, eventually he was just watching how she was constantly almost failing, but she succeeded, and then it resulted in what we saw in this episode, and he's like, I want to help out, and he dives in and tries to fight and all that, and in all honesty, it feels forced. It feels very forced, because this character hasn't really had any interactions with our main characters much at all, but on top of that, just the way he changes his mind, he's like, I want to be like them, I want to charge in and all that, I want to fight, and he just goes in, and he's having a fighting scene, which, by the way, very beautiful. I really like the way the fighting and action, all that stuff looked in this episode, but the scene just didn't make sense, because in terms of the character and all of that, and the way he rushed in, and the way he was just sacrificing himself and all that, like, I don't care about him. I don't care about the character, because he hasn't been shown enough for me to legit even be concerned for him at all, even if he does die. So I'm like, I don't care. On top of that, just the interactions of how he changed from what he was doing constantly throughout Season 1 and Season 2 to what he was doing in this episode, I'm like, it came out of nowhere. Just like how last week's episode, how I talked about the advisor, the person that was helping out, you know, the Lord of Calamity, like, why the fuck did she come out of nowhere and start helping out and all that? It just didn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that? It just, there's no point, besides you wanting to change sides, but then if you're still on a side, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if everything's gonna end anyways, why would you waste your time trying to say anything? And now, when it comes to the advisor, Simon, or however you pronounce her name, also another character that has briefly been shown less, actually, than the Hellion that was sacrificing himself in this episode, and I'm exposed to, like, feel some form of sadness or something towards her, wanting to sacrifice herself, throw herself into a pit of malevolence, and then die and turn into, like, a dragon. I don't feel anything for the character as well. I don't. She has a good design and all that, but I don't care about the character. I'm not emotionally attached to the character. I don't care if the character gets saved or not. I just don't give a shit about the character. Number one, the fucking Lord of Calamity already has a massive-ass army of spirits, demons, whatever, and fucking dragons all in the sky. It was very clear to us, if you're watching this episode, that this man has a force that, honestly, nobody could stop at all. Not even the shepherd should honestly be able to stop what we see in this episode, because let's think about this. Throughout the entirety of Season 1 and then just recently Season 2, it took everything they had to bring down one fucking dragon, okay? One, and then purifying on top of that. And you're telling me Saray and all them coming in, wiping out these dragons like they're fucking nothing, like they're fucking fodder. I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It legit does not make any sense with what has already been established with Season 2 alone. Just, it doesn't make sense how they're just wiping out all these dragons like they're fodder just to get to the end-game boss. But then on top of that, though, since they have such this big army, like the Lord of Calamity has this massive-ass army, it makes no sense for Simon to turn into a dragon. It makes legit no sense. And hear me out, and this is the reason why. Because, number one, all of these spirits that turn into dragons, they're like mindless. They're just beings of malevolence. Their minds have been taken over. They're very strong and powerful, but they're mindless pretty much. They're just attacking anyone on sight, and they're following the orders of the Lord of Calamity. And when you look at it like this, it doesn't make sense why Simon, after spending so much time with the Lord of Calamity, she didn't get corrupted or turned into a dragon after all those years she supposedly spent time with him. She didn't get corrupted, she didn't change into a dragon, but then she just casts herself into the pit of malevolence and then she turns into one. There's no explanation for that. Why did she never change into one? Why did it change now? Why did she change into that now? Why wouldn't the Lord of Calamity want her to just remain as she is? I mean, she's obviously way more useful than being a fucking dragon, because she can communicate, talk with them. So when you think about it like that, it just doesn't make any sense. It legit makes no sense. But then let's talk about the main antagonist, the main in-game boss. The in-game boss, honestly, I don't really care about the in-game boss as well. By the time when you're playing a game, like you're this far into a game, because this is based off of a game series, time you're this far into the game, you're up against the in-game boss. You see the in-game boss before you, the end of the world is happening, everybody is going to die, you have to stand before this in-game boss and defeat him. You're playing a game for many hours, and after all these hours of playing a game, obviously you're going to get some details and information about this in-game boss, eventually characterization, some backstory or something, and it's going to get you hyped up. You're like, holy shit, this is going to be fucking insane. This in-game boss I'm going to have to fight, he's going to be absolutely insane. But then, on top of that, when you know the character, you could sometimes understand why he does these things. And the boss so far, the in-game boss, the Lord of Calamity, he hasn't been characterized at all, besides being someone that's strong, has a lot of malevolence, and commands this big army of dragons and shit. There's not a lot of explanation. And I'm like, the boss kind of sucks. Like, he's a pretty shitty in-game boss, because I really don't understand anything about him. And on top of that, though, it just, at this time when you're playing, let's say, a game, since I'm basing this off of, like, how, you know, a game would be, when you're at this part, you're going up against the boss, you would already understand what the boss wants, what they want to do. Like, let's factor in Sephiroth, let's factor in the Lich King, you know, Arthas from World of Warcraft, Illidan, let's factor in other manga characters, like, you know, other great characters and villains, like, let's say, Johan and all of them from Monster. I mean, there's a lot of good villains and stuff, that when you finally face them, you know what they want. You know what they want to do, and why they're so terrifying, and why they're like that in-game boss. And right now with this boss, I'm just like, I don't care. It's a boss that, he's strong, he has fret, like, there's a lot of fret with him, but I don't care about him. Like, he's not really that terrifying to me, because his motives and stuff are just, I don't know. He seems very powerful. He just wants to destroy the world. That's about it. It's a very generic, you know, overall plot that he wants to do, so yeah, episode overall of Tales of Zestiria this week, like I said, it was bad. It was really bad. Pacing and everything, it was a really bad episode, and I gotta say, I don't know. I don't really know right now. I enjoyed the first season. I kind of enjoyed, you know, majority of the first part of season 2. And then I've noticed it's slowly progressively getting worse and worse by the episode. Pacing is kicking into high gear. A lot of things are just not getting explained. Things are just getting axed and thrown out the window. And I'm just like this is not what I want when, you know, I started. But I guess that just happened. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to conclude my thoughts there. Yeah. I'm going to continue reviewing it, obviously, but just the episode was really bad. Hopefully a lot of things get answered in the upcoming episodes. So you all have a wonderful day or nights wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.